special welcome to the Director General, Minister of Youth and Sport, Southwest State Somalia, Honorable Aden Omar Hassan. Thank you for coming all the way from Somalia. You're welcome, and we are very pleased to have you here. I would also like to thank our partners again, United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, Cynthia, Commonwealth Secretariat, thank you so much for the partnership, Stockholm Environmental Institute, and the Youth Congress. Last year, UN Habitat organized the first Urban YouthConnekt session, and we heard you. You wanted it back, so we are back. The youth, city and urbanization that UN Habitat is spearheading is integral in the development of the YouthConnekt Summit and the Sustainable Development Goal number 11 and the New Urban Agenda, which have created the framework for implementation and achievement of these goals. This year, the urban session is focusing on fragile and resilient cities. Youth innovations have transcended regardless of unfavorable environments, including fragile environments. So governance, innovations, entrepreneurship, environment, creative economies, which we were discussing in the previous session, financing, conflict resolution, among others, are areas that young people in resilient cities have resonated to, and hence, despite all this, have been able to thrive. So we want to learn from these experiences and share best practices with other fragile and resilient cities. Because we're saying that much as there's conflict in our countries, but young people, they still make it. How do they do it? And I think this is where the issue of the South-South cooperation come in, and also all the lessons that we need to learn. We heard you when you requested to have post-engagement. And in this regard, I'll tell you for sure, when I agreed to organize this session, I said I'm not going to end by talking. We have to have some action. And you can take me on that. The next YouthConnekt urban session, ask me what we've done in the 1 year, please. It's a promise. We've developed an outline for a strategy, the urban strategy, and we're going to develop a program. We are calling our partners, Commonwealth and all the other partners who are coming on board to help us to demonstrate what we are talking about. We are going to walk the talk. I'm not going to talk much, but I just want to thank you, and please, I want to end by saying our development partners and all the partners that we've been working with will be calling upon you to be able to make this thing happen, because as you've heard, I've just made my commitment. I don't know how I'll do it, but I know I'll do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mutinta, for the inspiration. And at this point, I want to call upon our speakers for the day. I will start with the Director General, Ministry of Youth and Sports, Southwest State Somalia, Honorable Aden Omar Hassan. Would you please come to the stage? The Governance Expert, Ministry of Youth and Sports, Southwest State Somalia, Said Ali Abubakar Hussein. We have our able youth representative, Mr. Lamin from Gambia. Please come to the stage. Tony Iganji from Rwanda. And Mr. Adulai Bari from Guinea-Bissau. We have our partners, the United Nations of South-South Cooperation, Ms. Cynthia. Commonwealth Secretariat, represented by Mr. Lane Robinson. And Stockholm Environmental Institute, Mr. William Apondo. Now I have to cross the stage because my seat is on the other end. It's fine. And I'd like to open this discussion by engaging our ministers, honorable ministers from Southwest State Somalia. We would like to talk about, and more specifically to Honorable Aden, let's talk about employment and employment opportunities and the importance of building the capacity of youth in Somalia. We understand the context of Somalia, it being a fragile, but also a resilient state. So maybe you can tell us, because employment is one of the issues in Africa, how have you achieved this in Southwest State Somalia?
Bismillah. Thank you for your question. As we know, the Somali country, we have undergone many problems around 3 decades. Now we are on the right track. We believe to bring the good, positive things for our community. As I'm from state, as we know the Somali, we are practicing the federal system. I'm from Southwest State. According to the Southwest State, if I talk to the Southwest State, we have unemployment rate very high compared to some states, because we are new state around 5 years. My government is doing is a good according to the youth. Now we have Minister of Youth and Sports, also Minister of Labor. Unemployment is very high. The unemployment is very high. African, we cannot even say only the Somali and Southwest State. Now we are ready to change the issue we had before. All youth sectors also are very committed to bring innovation, different innovation, also technology, entrepreneurship, many things. They are willing to change the Somali content. Without innovation, youth also cannot take the positive side. Now, as a government, we are doing a lot, because without peace and without innovation, also creating the opportunity to the youth, will not get any peace. You know, people are sitting there around the market, then they think after that even they can join another group to destroy our country. As a government, federal government also is almost preparing a lot of the youth. Today is a friend, a colleague of mine is with me here. The social sector of the office of the Prime Minister is with me. The government is ready to change the contact we had before. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was very, very, it touched me, and it says changing Somalia is just one word, youth. You know, and that is very heavy, because I think a lot of countries need to work on youth as the largest demography in Africa. And I'd like to lead the second question to our governance expert, Sid Ali. Contextualizing Somalia. Somalia is a country where you see, you know, a lot of young leaders in decision making, and probably this is, you know, because of conflict, the insecurity, and you have managed to put young leaders in these structures. As a governance expert, maybe you can tell us, you know, practical ways of increasing youth participation in Africa, and more specifically in, you know, fragile and resilient cities, but also looking at it from other African countries. How can African countries also do this?
Thank you very much, Judith. I would like to thank the organizers for the summit and this plenary session. And I would like to thank my DG, Honorable Adam, for opening the remarks. And before going, to answer the question, let me first give the audience a definition of Somalia and where it is in the world map. Somalia is a country in the Horn of Africa. The reason I'm doing this definition is, in 2014 I was in South Africa. We had training there, and a lady who was our tour in South Africa asked me where I'm from. Then I said I'm from Somalia. She said, "Oh, I know, it's next to Pakistan." So Somalia is a country in Africa, in East Africa, and the very Horn of Africa. Somalia has faced conflicts, and for the last 2 decades or 3 decades, now 28 years, but it's recovering. Now Somalia is recovering. And the youth population in Somalia, according to the National Development Plan in Somalia, the youth population is 75% of the population in Somalia are youth. So the youth are the asset of any nation, and especially for Somalia, the youth are the assets we have now. My name is Sid Ali. I work as a governance expert at the Ministry of Youth and Sports of the Southwest State of Somalia. And again, Somalia is a country where the federalism is practiced. We have 7 member states to the federal government of Somalia, and Southwest is one of the states in Somalia established only in November 2014. And now we are doing well in terms of youth and youth inclusion in the political processes and decision-making processes. When we say that we are doing well, we have to have figures, numbers. There is a saying which says, "In God we trust, others bring data." At the state now, with only 5 years of age, the recent cabinet established by His Excellency Honorable Abdulaziz Mohammed Hassan Laftagaren, the cabinet of the state, 40% of the cabinet now are youth. So the president, with his leadership, and the Minister of Youth and Sports, with all the team working for the ministry, we had only one target. Our target is how we can utilize this great asset that we have. We say 75% of the population. And to serve them, we have to speak for them, advocate for them. So my role at the ministry is to advocate for the youth inclusion in the political process and decision-making process, whether it's a district level or a regional level. And in 2016, we had the elections of the federal parliaments. The seats that are elected from Southwest State at the federal parliament are 69, of which 20% are youth. No other state has demonstrated such a commitment to empower the youth in Somalia other than Southwest State. I think I've said a lot. Maybe I will have another question, I don't know.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely have time for a plenary session, a plenary discussion where you will engage with young people and you will interact with them still when you're on the panel and the young people from the floor. However, now I'd like to lead this discussion to the next section where we want to showcase what the Urban YouthConnekt Cafe just did. It was a very simple exercise, but the recommendations from the YouthConnekt Cafe were tremendous. And as Mutinta said, that this will lead to development of a strategy and a program. So I'd like to call onto my next, or my co-moderator to moderate the next session of this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Ndize Einsteiner, and I'm grateful to be the co-moderator in this session. If you allow, I'll sit now. So I didn't hear you quite well. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Young people, you don't seem ready for this opportunity. Should we just go back home? So good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, thank you so much. We are going to proceed with the next part of this discussion. I have 3 amazing young people that are going to share and bring out the voice of young people on this matter. I'll start with Mr. Lamini. Lamin from Gambia. And my request to you would be sharing with us the recommendations and some of the key points that were discussed during the Urban Youth Connect and how that fits in this discussion that we are having right now.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. First, I am Lamin Dabo from the Gambia. Again, just to make a few clarifications, it's not Zambia, but the Gambia. Often all our tourists go to Zambia thinking they are booking for Gambia. So we want to make clarification that we are different. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think the first session on the Youth Cafe has been quite engaging, and young people were given opportunity to speak to one another, but also share at a plenary. And the beauty of that, the setting, was that everybody has the opportunity to actually share, your views, and also, of course, listen from our colleagues. On the discussions, we are looking at different thematic areas. And one of them we'll start is focusing on youth leadership and governance. And during these discussions, we are looking at the role of national youth councils. We are also looking at the role of the youth leaders, and also focusing on how do we ensure that there's effective mainstreaming of youth issues. On the role of youth leaders, of national youth councils, the group discussed and identify one central role, that there are numerous functions of national youth councils, but one of their primary function, especially the hybrid type of councils that we discuss, because we talk about those youth councils that are predominantly government, those youth councils that are predominantly civil society, and there are also other youth councils that are hybrid, a partnership, a collaboration between young people and their government. To say the primary function of those youth councils will be to serve as a bridge between government and young people, a facilitator, and so that the voices of young people are heard at policy-making level. But of course, government policies are also communicated to young people, because young people are not only the majority in most of our African countries or even the fragile states, but they're also the generation that is, let me say, opportune to be tech-savvy, have access to education, and of course also energetic with passion. So getting their voice and view into national development issues is critical. On the role of youth leaders, from the numerous functions that were identified, 3 key roles stands out from that group discussion. And one of them is advocacy, that youth leaders have influence, they have people behind them, and they have a primary role also to advocate on issues that affect the lives of young people. But of course, for peace building, of course, for environment, climate change, and all other issues that affect the lives of youth. But again, the group discussed that there should be, one of their roles should also be accountability. They should be able to hold not only government, but let me say duty bearers to account in terms of their promises, but also the commitments that they make, or even if we have sessions like these, things that comes out of this, youth leaders should be able to follow up. UN Habitat, follow up other people to say, what actually are we doing? And the next thing was action. That beyond calling on government, civil society, and of course calling development partners to do this and this, youth leaders and the youth organizations must also take action. There are some activities that we can do to be able to impact our lives, to be able to impact our society and our community, meaning holding governments and duty bearers to account and supporting social development are not mutually exclusive. On mainstreaming, we've also discussed that When you go to look at most governments, they look at youth issues as a standalone. And of course, when you provide them footballs, then it means that they are done. But that's not the case in this situation. We said, when you talk about mainstreaming, we need to look at youth issues beyond being a standalone, to being a cross-cutting that becomes a critical enabler to all other sectoral works. I'm being noticed that time is not on our side, but I will say another group that thematic area we look at was South-South cooperation. Under the South-South cooperation, young people identified that we cannot harness the potential of South-South cooperation when we don't have evidence or data on what is working and what is not working. So we will need data, we will need evidence of what is working, and this will also facilitate cooperation, but also to create a knowledge platform for young people, a virtual platforms that young people could use open source and learn and know which country they can connect with. But we must also harmonize our programming, the different southern countries. We must harmonize our programming, especially around education skills, entrepreneurship, to facilitate mobility, but also provide resources for exchanges and learning. It's much easier in African countries, for example, to get money, a ticket to go to New York, than to get money for a ticket from Gambia to come to Rwanda. So we need to be able to also promote that. I'm sure time is not on our side, but we will continue the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, as you say, time is not on our side. And thank you for sharing that. We need to be advocates. We need to hold each other accountable. We need to take action beyond calling to governments to be with us and invest in us. They need to invest with us now. Us also taking part in the actions being taken. The next question is going to go to the amazing Tony and Adulai. What are we as young people doing to bridge the gap between having the right policy and them actually being implemented and having programs that work for us, and how are we evaluating the progress being made? You can go first.
He needs mic.
Someone give him a mic, please.
Hello. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Muito obrigado. Just to let you know that I'm from Guinea-Bissau. We are a Portuguese country. So I wanted just to introduce in Portuguese, but just to show the diversity of this panel.
You still can.
Ok. Muito obrigado pela oportunidade. Sou da Guiné-Bissau, sou empreendedor e também ativista para a criação de ambiente de negócio para a Guiné. Okay, I will switch then.
Okay, I got it. I understood what you said, but
wonderful.
We need to translate for my people.
Okay, great. So I was saying I'm from Guinea-Bissau. I'm an entrepreneur and also activist for the creation of an environment, an ecosystem of entrepreneurship and innovation in my country. So the government, I can give an example of my country to talk about the question. It seems like in my country we have like the government going this way, and then all the movement of entrepreneurs, young initiatives going in another way. So right now we're trying to work on different actions with the new government, specifically the Secretary of State of Youth and Sport, to see how we can do kind of dialogue between our initiatives and the government to see how to implement some policies that can fit in what we're doing. Because it seems like we running very fast than the government. The innovation, all the world, it's booming, everything going very fast. And as a youth, having these kind of opportunities, we trying to implement different programs to empower youth in business, in entrepreneurship, using some tools like boot camps, hackathons, and all those things. And we can evaluate that today with our initiative called InnovaLab. We reach more than 5,000 people. It's a small country with a lot of islands, like more than 80 islands, but with 1.6 million as a population. So reaching like 5,000 people is not easier, but it's for us, it's a good achievement. And we not only reach them like to say, okay, we like met them and all those things, we train them, we give them tools to help them start their own businesses. Because sometimes we, as a youth, we are dependent on the politics in our countries. Like they, when we have a campaign for the elections, they just give us the money. They just said, okay, when we won the elections, we're gonna give you opportunities and positions. And we want to change that mindset to tell them, look, you can be your own CEO, you can run your own business, and then still working side by side with the government, because you are part of the movement to develop your country. You can bring economic development, you know, your contribution for the country by doing entrepreneurship also, but also social entrepreneurship. You know, there's a lot of NGOs. So I think it's important to advocate for policies, but also to create a movement that the government can see. If we want to work with the youth, they are the majority, we need to do this way, because it's what they're looking for, it's what exactly they want. So for me, it's not two countries or two continents between us and the government, but we need to work side by side and then try to implement policies that can help implement an ecosystem where everyone can have opportunities, girls and boys, you know, people with disabilities, people without education. Each one have a place in the community so that we can grow and develop our countries.
Well, thank you very much for sharing the perspective from your country. Let's now hear from Tony.
Thank you very much. Miriwe Neza. And for the rest of the people, good afternoon and bonsoir. Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. As you said, of talking about how we can bridge the gap between policy making and implementation. As we all know, Africa is not lacking policies and structures and institutions. We have those, but what we're lacking is the actions on ground. So I'm not going to be talking from an Africa perspective. I'm from Rwanda and I'm Tony, so I'm going to be talking for my country. What we've done, there's no single grain of doubt in anyone's mind in this room that Rwanda is not only one of the fastest growing countries in Africa, but in the world over. So that means there has been a lot of work done between merging that gap, trying to tighten the gap between policies and actions on ground. So one of the things that we've done, I'm going to be talking about three things. One of the things we've done is accountability. Yesterday, His Excellency, if some of us were here, His Excellency said that no matter where you are in the government position, if you are the boss, if you are in the middle, or if you're down, no matter where you are, you're accountable for your actions. If we're talking about anti-corruption, trying to fight corruption, which is one of the biggest problems we have in African states, no matter where you are in Rwanda, you'll be affected by the policies. So one of the things we should look at as youths is developing that sense of accountability in us and in our leaders, because it starts with us. Just like the theme of the conference says, I take the lead. Just because we're here, we're going to take the lead in this. Number two, we have involvement of the youths in Rwanda in all sectors, at all levels. In Rwanda, I can tell you that we have youth leaders from the bottom of the organization, from the bottom parts of leadership. We have youth leaders in cells. We have youth leaders in sectors. We have youth leaders in the districts. We have youth leaders in the province and on the national level. This helps amplify the voices of the different youths and different young people at all levels. Because today we are facing a problem, we as young people, we are facing a problem of being excluded from decision making. And these decisions that our grand or our bigger parents, our parents are making will affect us in 10, 15 years to come. And we'll have to manage these decisions that we did not have a say in them. So in Rwanda, we're trying to bridge that gap by involving youth in all levels. So our voices as Rwandan people is heard at any level, and we take part in this decision-making process. Number 3, I want to talk about the mindset. Because I often hear, as a young person, as an entrepreneur, I often hear the challenge of lack of funds. I think we all get this. You talk to a young person who's an aspiring entrepreneur and you tell them, why aren't you starting? Lack of funds. We don't have money. I think I would come to this in a different approach. I, for one, can tell you, because I have a nonprofit organization called Orators Africa that trains in public speaking and leadership. We have taken it upon ourselves with no money, with no grants, with no sponsorship, just to prove to ourselves that this can actually work. We know the whole process. Thank you very much. We know the whole process of applying for sponsorships. People are out there, but we want to take it upon ourselves to first assure ourselves, first prove to ourselves and to the world over that this can actually work with or without money. If my business, I'm into the speaking business, I speak, I get money, I do not need your payment to speak. I actually have to speak. If I'm a gardener, I do not need your money to wipe and clean your garden. What you do brings the money, not the money bringing your passion. You do not have to wait for the right time to do the right thing. It is never the wrong time to do the right thing. It is always the right time to do the right thing. So let's change our mindset as young people and take the lead in initiating these projects, and this will help us bridge the gap between the policy implementations and the policy making and the implementation. Then on the other side, I also want to come to, I believe there's some government officials in here. I want to come to them and say, sometimes we need you to get out of your offices. We need you to come out and monitor, evaluate, and mentor these young youth-led organizations that are out there. Today in Rwanda, we have very many youth-led organizations. But if you ask me if I've ever seen a government official visit my office, that would be a lie, it would be a no. And they sit back there and tell us we're doing nothing, yet they're doing nothing in their offices. So my advice to you is get out of your offices, come on ground, see what's lacking, give us advice, and together we'll build the Rwanda we want and the Africa we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think this is actually very challenging. It sounds like we had a world of policymakers and a world of implementers, and that those are the young people. And I think it's time that changes. We be both policymakers and implementers. If we work together, this can actually work. So thank you very much, young people, for bringing your voice to this platform. I'm quite sure everyone was taking notes, and I'm excited to see where this leads us. The next section is going to be led by Raphael, who I'm welcoming. A round of applause for Raphael. He's awake, he's alive.
And I'm alert. And all of you are enthusiastic, right? We are supposed to have a plenary, but before we have a plenary, I think I want to pose a few questions to the development agencies that are here. During the YouthConnekt that we had this morning, I think the role of development partners, international organizations came out very strongly. That young people see you as allies, but young people also want to hold you accountable in terms of how can they ensure that you're doing your work well. And my first question goes to Cynthia. How can we better foster youth leadership and youth participation and youth development, especially in the context of fragile states, to ensure that youth are more engaged in promotion of peace and resilience in cities? Cynthia.
Good afternoon. Before I answer the question, I'll just give a small introduction of who I am and where I'm coming from. That will also define my answer. So my name is Cynthia Oluwasa. I work with the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, the regional office, which is based in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, the Regional Service Center for Africa. And the UN Office for South-South Cooperation has been given the mandate to mainstream South-South cooperation as a development framework within the UN system, within the other agencies, and also at country level, with regional bodies, and basically any stakeholder in development who's interested in implementing South-South cooperation as a development framework. It might be a bit kind of a foreign term for some people in the room. I'll give a very brief description, but it just needs more time that we don't have right now to go deeper into what South-South cooperation is. But in a nutshell, it's cooperation and development solidarity among developing countries, the southern countries of the world, in the global south. And this is from an economics point of view. There is, of course, socio-cultural, there is environmental, and there's a technical bit. The history spans from the late 50s up until now. So it's been there for a while. It's growing, it's gaining momentum. There's still a lot of space for South-South cooperation in the development arena. So we can, if you're really interested, we can talk more about this. So I can now answer, my answer will come from the point of view of South-South cooperation. How we can better foster youth development in fragile states. South-South cooperation has a few principles, including, of course, respect for national sovereignty, mutual benefit, equality. And from this, we can talk about, and the modalities of South-South cooperation include peer-to-peer learning and knowledge sharing and exchange. So from the fragile state space, what is happening, what South-South cooperation offers is a chance to learn from each other. There are countries in the world that were formerly fragile states, that are now resilient states, that have now moved from conflict or have moved from chronic poverty for one reason or the other and are now doing really well. This is where South-South cooperation comes in, where, for example, and as I was listening to the panelists from Somalia, and I was saying there are countries that Somalia can tap into in terms of cooperation and partnerships for learning and to get the resources, and especially in terms of knowledge sharing and experience based on mutual experience, to know what did you do, how did you get out of where you were, how did you move from point A to point where you are right now. It can be done, it has been done. And though, I come from Kenya, so Somalia are by very close sisters and brothers. And I know 28 years might seem long, but, it's not going to last. Definitely, I know it's not going to last forever. Things are getting better. And you can tap into the resources of other countries that have managed to move from war-torn countries into thriving economies, into thriving countries. What the youth, the role that the youth can play, or the space that they can occupy, being the bigger and the biggest demographic, is to be part of the government building initiatives. Let us not leave them behind. We cannot afford to leave the young people behind. And in most cases, if you're looking at a very specific issue of conflict, most of the people who are involved in the active combat are the young people. They have the energy, they have the time, they have the means. How about we engage the same energy, the same time into constructive activities? Bring the youth on board. Sometimes it might be an African thing of the older people always making decisions and us younger people following in. But sometimes it's necessary to bring in the young people. Let us listen to them. Let us not do for them. Let us do with them. Let us engage and let us learn. Let us foster the culture of learning and continuous learning. Let us always, there was an issue that was raised today. How can we learn if we don't know what is working? That is where we come in. We support this kind of, if there's that interest, if there's that demand from the ground, this is the kind of support that our office offers. We are more than ready, and this is an invitation for the kind of support someone might need. Our office is ready to listen and for us to see what are the needs on the ground. What kind of support can we offer to move towards development, and in the case of fragile states, can we be able to highlight best practice countries that have done so well, societies that have done very well in moving from conflict to thriving and resilient societies, where what is needed? What do you need for your nation, for your society? And we offer the support within the space of South-South cooperation.
Thank you. Let's clap for Cynthia. Thanks so much, Cynthia. My other question is to William from Stockholm Environmental Institute. And it's largely about this kind of platforms. We have the YouthConnekt, and within the YouthConnekt now we have the Urban YouthConnekt. And the question is, how can we use this platform to, better, or rather enhance, programming or implementation of programs, monitoring and evaluation of programs on youth development? Do you think this kind of a platform can be utilized in that way, and how do you think it can be utilized, and especially in the context of fragile states?
Thank you so much for the question. So I'll speak as a youth, and also I'll speak as a researcher from an international organization conducting research and engaging the youth constantly. So first of all, we need to make the youth understand that this could be the best use of their time. Rather than being out there doing something, the best use of their time is actually attending this platform. So this platform not only engages you and links you to conversations that stimulate your thoughts on environmental issues and also issues that are affecting you currently, but also the interaction that you have with leading people from various organizations that work on issues that are affecting the youth directly or indirectly from a fragile state point of view. So first of all, the youth, again, the second thing is that the youth need information. So the best place to get this kind of information is actually such platforms. So when they come here, you get the information that you will not get elsewhere. So through the South-South cooperation and also with the crowd that we have here from these 3 days, we have interacted with so many people from the South-South states. So personally today, I've interacted with more than 10 people. I've had different views on matters, specifically we're talking about climate and youth. So I've learned a lot from different states that work on climate and climate adaptation and mitigation, and how the future and the current, and also what is emerging from climate adaptation and mitigation. So such platforms also acts as the first step. So next, how do we have a clear strategy for implementation? Do we have binding things that keep us together? Not just leaving these platforms, but also leaving these platforms with connections. Like, for example, having understanding memorandums and also having a way to go ahead. And how do we monitor going ahead with these issues? So, so this should just be one of the platforms. So also getting another platform and also another platform. So one of the questions that emerged from one of the roundtable that we attended is that, so we were asked in that table, has any person in this table attended any international platform for dialogue? Like, for example, the IPCC. We are all quiet. So then we saw that's a huge gap where we miss a lot of critical information. So I would encourage the youth to attend more of these platforms because, of course, we are all youths. We need to earn our livelihood. So one will debate whether should I stay out there to earn money or attend such a platform. So I will say that this is the best platform to start and engage and continue in these kinds of engagements. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's clap for William. He always has a way of bringing in climate change and issues of adaptation. Even if you ask him something so unrelated, he will always find a way. Thank you so much, William. And now to Lane. I think the issue of policy has been mentioned over and over. And I remember in the last YouthConnekt, and even today during the Urban Connect, there was the question of how do you move from policy formulation to policy implementation so that we don't keep coming up with policies but we are not implementing them? How do we make sure that how can international organizations help to fill that gap of policy implementation to ensure better programming and better implementation of development programs that target the youth? And of course, you can also give us a little of your experience on practical interventions, looking at the context of fragile states also.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. Check, mic check. Yes, from the Commonwealth Secretariat, first of all, we want to thank UN Habitat and UN South-South Cooperation Office for facilitating this session. The issue of connecting policy to implementation remains a challenge, not just in the youth sector, but across all governments. I think the critical thing that we have to work on is accountability, and I think it has been coming out already. If governments at international level say one thing, we need people who are in the country holding them account for what they have said. It's very simple. And for that, you need transparency, you need good governance, and you need these principles in place. So in the youth sector, we need the very same thing. If something is said at international level, at UN, Commonwealth level, whichever level, we need to see it taking practical shape at country level. And if it's not happening, people need to be held accountable. There's a break in that link, though, where we have young people who are not informed about what is happening at the international level and are not holding their leaders account for what is happening in their country. But that is beginning to change. In the case of peace, I can speak as an example. The UN Resolution 2250, a big resolution on youth, peace, and security was made. We fought in the Commonwealth Secretariat to make sure every single head of government agreed, working with young people, that this would be something important for countries. The UN Resolution on Youth, Peace and Security speaks to a change in the way we conceptualize youth in the context of fragile states in peaceful societies. It says we must see young people as agents of change and not perpetrators of violent crime or wars and conflict. So our job in the Commonwealth, and I think other partners too, is to make that relevant at national level. So in our case, we're implementing it in Kenya to translate that big international commitment that countries made at Commonwealth level, at UN level, into the national youth policy at country level. And then we are hoping to hold ourselves accountable for that. So if we're going to build up an effective sector on peace or any other issue, climate change, you name it, you do need to begin with the right approach. And we in the Commonwealth believe that there are more, but we speak about 4 approaches to youth development. We talk about the deficit approach, where we see young people as problems. That's not a good approach. We talk about the youth for development approach, where we see young people as instruments. You need to get the young people employed so that they will not commit crime and destroy the society. That's another approach, not a good approach. Then you have the welfare approach. Oh, we need to fix these young people because they are, poverty, teenage pregnancy on the rise. What we propose in the Commonwealth, and I think many others, is the asset-based approach, or what we call the positive youth approach, where we see young people as assets. So you can begin already to know if you're a country, if you're translating the policy and you have the wrong approach, if you're holding your contract, which approach is your Ministry of Youth or your National Youth Policy talking about? Is it seeing young people as deficits, as a welfare approach, or a youth for development and instrument? A second thing that I think I'd want to share here in terms of implementation. So how do you build a youth sector that is effective? And we talk about fragile states. We believe that there are at least 8 core elements in building a youth sector that is dynamic and will sustain time. 8 elements. I will not have time to speak to all of them, but you can ask me a question and I will answer them. 8 components. If you have these 8 components right, your youth sector will grow and flourish in any context. I will give you 2 of them to take away, and then we'll discuss them later. Number one, you do need to have, and I heard it mentioned, evidence and data. It's a given now. What we know in our country is there's not enough youth data. I heard somebody say in the panel, we have all the things in place. We have institutions and we have all the policies. We don't. We don't have enough youth information on youth populations. We don't. Even on things like employment, the data is so bad, it will shock you. Oh, such a big issue could not have the data on youth. So we need proper data so as to influence the kinds of policy decisions that we are making. The second one I will speak to, and then I will conclude and wait for our questions and discussion, is we need a robust youth work sector. What am I talking about? We talk about young youth leadership in this room, young people aged in Africa 15 to 35, youth. But a lot of people are working with young people, the youth workers, the youth officers. But what we have in Africa and in all parts of the world, most parts of the world, these youth officers, these youth workers, there's not enough of them, number one. Number two, they are not trained. So if you wanted to do a youth, you talk about Africa being the youngest continent. Where do you go to study youth work? Theory and practice. Where would you go? Which university? Call out their names. You can barely find any. So the biggest problem we have in Africa, the biggest problem we have in the world, you can't find credible universities to offer the training you need to address this issue. This is serious. We talk about building a youth sector. There are 6 other elements I could share with you later. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we're going to have evening classes so you get the other 6. Yeah. So we should stay here. But anyway, this is not my panel. It's supposed to be our panel. So I want to open it up to all of us now to pose questions, make comments. And if there are comments, please make them brief. If there are questions also, please make your questions brief. And also, if you want your questions answered by any particular panelist here, please feel free to point out that. So someone should help. Oh, we have roving mics. So let's start. Because you have the mic and you are over there, you can start with the lady over there. Then we come this way. Please be quick so that 30 seconds if you can.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, I'm Phyllis from Kenya, and I think one thing synonymous with when we talk about fragile states, it's about aid. So in fragile states, you'll find there's so many donors, and there's so much aid coming in terms of funding, services. You can talk about supplies, and this also affects maybe how the healthcare is and all other services. So when it comes to youth, and I can take an example of Somalia, because I've worked in Somalia for more than 9 years. So taking an example of Somalia, and you have 75% who are youth. And if I'm a Somalia, and for 28 years, since I was born, I've been 28 years, and there's been aid coming in. So I've been taking a backseat, because health probably is free, 90% of it. Other services like farming and all that is free. So I don't have that mindset whereby I can take an initiative to maybe be an entrepreneur or do my own business and all that. But take the case still of Somalia. If you look around the world, be it in America, in Kenya and all that, they are entrepreneurs, they are the biggest business people, they have footprints all over Kenya. So as a Somali government, what are you doing to make sure that the people you have, 75% of the youth that you have, they don't get maybe dragged into the aid thing? You have policies and all other things to make sure that you can be able to tap in this big population of 75% youth, and still have people who can be able to lead the country to the next level.
Thank you so much. Thanks. I think you are noting the questions, and we'll get back to you. We'll take 5 questions for this round. They'll respond, and then we'll see if we can take another round.
We have one lady standing.
The question I have is to Sid. He was talking about success in terms of political inclusion. So I wanted to ask him, what are some of the things you're doing right? What are some of the initiatives you guys have taken that other African countries can learn from? The other thing is, the other question is to the DG Southwest. He mentioned about unemployment, high unemployment rate in Southwest. What is the government doing about that? Or what are you doing to address that? Those are my questions.
Thank you so much. Tina? Yes.
Thank you. I'm Katnyang from South Sudan. My question was basically be based on the education sector. How do we build practical education from the lowest grassroots? Basically, let's say from the start, in order to have a futuristic youth. Thank you.
Thank you. If we all ask questions like that, I think most of us are going to get a chance. So, where's the mic?
It's
here. At the back.
The question is coming in French. We shall try our best to translate.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis Albert Nzanzu. Je viens de la RDC. J'ai une question adressée à un monsieur qui a parlé des organisations internationales. J'aimerais comprendre.
Maybe we can do a simultaneous translation just to not miss any points.
Fantastic.
Okay, so.
Comment les organisations internationales peuvent nous aider à mettre en place les informations et cette connexion dans le milieu urbain pour que les jeunes qui se trouvent dans le milieu urbain soient aussi connectés?
How are international organizations helping us to create platforms for young people in urban cities to be connected and have good cooperation?
Fantastic. Let's take two more. Where's the mic? They are here.
Thank you.
It's working.
Okay, thank you. My name is Solomon from South Africa. I would like to react on the comment which the elder was giving us on that side, and also I have a question for it. In Africa, leaders, they don't trust us due to lack of experience according to them. But you may be graduated engineer and the government is unable to employ everyone. So sometimes we have to create on our own. And by creating, example for myself, I graduated in 2014 and the government had no plan for me. And I decided to open my own company in 2016, which is doing well now. And I'm doing business construction. But the problem is when there is a tender, and as a director of a black company in Africa, you come and challenge the bigger companies, you submit your feasibility studies or anything for that project which is required, and you meet the requirement, and they say, no, this young man is 27 years old, he don't have experience, he's not qualified. So what do we do to get our leaders to trust that? While I've been proved to them by 50 kilometers, I showed them that I can do it. But when it is 100 kilometers, they say, no, you are 27 years, unfortunately, you cannot do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very so much. Let's have one more question from a lady here.
Let's have a lady here.
Yeah.
We have one standing, sorry, let's
have the lady at the back and then...
Okay,
and
thank
then
you.
The lady here, then we'll have the panel respond.
Okay, thank you. My question is directed to the Somali delegation. So for all that we're discussing to stand a chance for development and the youth inclusion discussions to happen, peace is necessary. I stand to be corrected, but peace building is the stage, I would say, Somali is at this moment. Could you please elaborate on what the youth and the women, the initiatives that are ongoing to ensure that the Somali state does have sustaining peace to create the sustainable environment that would ensure all that we're engaging in would actually stand a chance to be implemented. Thank you.
Fantastic. Let's have one more here, and then we get to the panel, and then we'll get back again to the floor.
Hey. Hi, my name is Natalie Kesaro, and I'm from here. So my question goes to Cynthia. So I would ask, what from your experience, what are the practical challenges that the South-South Cooperation Initiative is experiencing, and how, on a daily basis, how do you, overcome it, or what can we do to overcome it? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I'll give the panel, but also remember, this panel has no monopoly of knowledge. So answers can also come from the audience. So if you feel they've not responded accordingly and you think you have a better answer, please also feel free. But I also would want young people also to hold each other accountable, because we also have young people on this panel, so we also have to hold each other accountable. So, yeah. So let's start with William.
So I will address the question that the gentleman there asked about international organizations and what they're doing to make sure that the youth have more of these panels to address issues. So I work for an international organization that works on research that influences policy. So we collect information by conducting research and then take this research to influence policy. So some of the things that we're doing to make sure that the youth are actively involved, number one is we promote initiatives that expose the youth to showcase the ability to tackle key environmental issues using research. For example, we conduct data. When we measure data, for example, on pollution, this data is very critical because, number one, it will tell us the gaps, it will tell us the baseline of what is happening, and then from that we'll see on how to conduct future research that will influence policy and also tackle issues to solve key critical issues. Number two is that we facilitate the youth to access information. Information is very important. So without knowing basic information on what's really a critical issue that is affecting you, it won't be of help to you. So we make sure that the youth access such platforms, because when we conduct research, we go back to the community that we've conducted research, and then we'll bring them together, hold consultative meetings with them, and then bring policymakers together, bring government officials together, bring other research organizations together, and also academia. So we actively involve the youth and the policymakers and bring them together. It might be difficult, for example, somebody complained about the government not being able to reach them, but then through such forums that we hold between community members and policymakers, the policymakers have the chance to hear directly from the youths and about the problems. They will talk to them, they'll tell them this is what we are facing and this is what it's going on. So, and then another critical issue is now placing equity, if not at the front, but at the middle point in terms of when we are designing policies and implementation. So we have to bring in the aspect of equity, like are the youth's views being projected and being heard in the policy-making process. We need to involve them actively from designing the policy up to implementing the policy. All this way, we have the chance of making sure that this policy actually, when it is implemented, will not only affect the people that are affected, but also the youth's voice is in this policy. Other things is that we try to conduct research that on the youth and emerging issues. There are so many research that is being conducted about a lot of things, but then we need to conduct research that is specifically on the youth and emerging issues like the youth and climate, the youth and hunger, the youth and flooding. Very specific research that give key information that is able to showcase more towards solving problems. Thank you.
Before I answer your question, I'd like to answer the gentleman who spoke in French. I don't know. You'll translate? Oh, he has.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. On how international organizations are helping create platforms for urban youth for connection. One experience from our organization is we are working on an initiative for women in STEM in Africa. And one of the activities that we are hoping to undertake in the coming year is the development of an online platform. We are in the digital age. It's here with us. We cannot escape it, and it wouldn't be prudent to escape it. We were having a discussion this lunchtime with a friend today about such a forum is very necessary, but it's also very costly. The resources that are put in together in like bringing all of us here, it's not little. And there's still so much need, and the number of people who are reached are not as many or enough to, for the change that we want to see. So my answer is online platforms are the way to go. For the youth, for the urban youth, they can be targeted, they can be controlled to, focus on urban youth matters, discussions. It's an online platform where engaging discussions happen. So what we are doing in our case, we are working on a Women in STEM, an African Women in STEM initiative, an online platform. We are working together with the AU. Now, the next challenge will be Muntinta and Judith and your team. Maybe that is the next deliverable. I'm not throwing you under the bus, but maybe that's something next year when you're reporting. You can report on an online Urban YouthConnekt platform. To answer your question on the challenges of South-South cooperation, the first one is the financial aspect, because this is a question that comes to us every time when we do get a request from a particular country or a particular stakeholder, and they want to do, let's say, peer-to-peer learning or some study tour or even a research to gather data on what is happening, what is working, and our resources can only go so far. We are only able to push and support up to a certain point. We are every day looking for financial partners to further the South-South agenda, and even as we engage countries, this is an ongoing engagement. Countries, if they can put towards South-South cooperation, the South-South cooperation agenda. Most countries at this point do not have, in the national budgets, this is not something that is factored in. And the idea of South-South cooperation is also independence. We do not want to create the kind of dependence that without a financial partner, there's nothing happening. So financing is a challenge, but I believe that as it becomes more mainstream, as countries adopt this development framework, they can also be able to put in some finances. And on the same thing related to countries, the issue of policy and the legal and institutional framework needed to support South-South cooperation. We do support policy development at country level for the mainstreaming of South-South cooperation, but as long as there is no policy for governments who may be interested in engaging in South-South cooperation, they cannot even get the budgetary support that is needed for activities at country level. So the first thing is there a policy, let's say, for example, in Rwanda, to support South-South cooperation, because that is what is the blueprint for any activity or any involvement in development in South-South cooperation. And then South-South cooperation is voluntary, and it's participative, and it's demand-driven. The keywords, these are very important keywords. So for any partner interested in engaging in South-South cooperation, it's got to be a voluntary thing. It cannot be forced upon you. And it's got to be participative. We as the office cannot come in and start doing and prescribing activities for you. It's got to come from you, and the demand and the need has to come from the partner, the country, the regional body, whoever is involved. It's got to be from your side as we offer the support that you have asked for. And of course, the final one is on data. South-South cooperation is all about learning from each other, knowledge sharing, experience sharing. But what is happening, there's so much resource, there's so much, we have so much resources, and not just in terms of financial or natural or anything, resources in terms of what is working. It might be in a small scale, in a particular small country somewhere, but there's something that is working and is working for you. And this is a big resource that is not known to your neighbor, or even in this case, even your neighboring county in the same country. Something is working in the corner of one country, and the next corner is suffering, wondering how can we get out of this rut or something. So data and knowledge and information and best practice, we need to capture that. There's a great need of capturing this and having this knowledge hub that will be able to be tapped into by any partner that is interested. So those are just some of the challenges that I can say we do experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me try to answer the question of Fatima, youth unemployment. As you know, the Somali country, we had money problems 3 decades, but right now we have approved the government, the federal government of Somalia has objective and strategy to eradicate unemployment. NDB 9, National Development Plan. The government has said, the cabinet already has passed. You know, the unemployment, only we have no problem with the Somali community. Also have a problem with our brothers African. That especially the state, now we are preparing the policy of youth. The policy of youth, by the time we finish, we take to the parliament, then they will pass. The right of the youth is clear. The opportunity of youth is clear. Now, we have no any youth policy right now. By the time we will prepare, where we will finish the youth policy is going on, we'll solve all problems we had now according to unemployment rate. That's the question of Fatima. The other one is seat.
All right. The question from Fatuma. To answer that question, I think I'll summarize it. We have a number of initiatives. Those initiatives are a targeted response for the needs of the different segments of the youth. Like at the Ministry of Youth and Sports of Southwest State of Somalia, we have programs called, like one is called civic education, which aims, to educate the youth on their rights, the laws, the mechanisms in place. There is another program called Every Voice Counts. This program is intended to mobilize the youth to actively participate in the political decision-making process. And thanks to the Peace Building Fund and thanks to UN Habitat and UNFPA, we have the Peace Building Fund program at the ministry that aims to empower the youth, to include them, or the inclusion of youth in the political decision-making process. Like another program is called Youth at Risk. That program specifically targets those young boys or girls who might happen to work, with the extremist guys. In Somalia we have the problem with extremists or terrorist-related groups. So youth who happen to work with them and now decide to come back and live as a normal life within their society. This program is called Youth at Risk. So when they come back, they are mobilized, trained, life skills lessons and after a certain period of time, they are given economic reintegration initiatives or responses that make them come back to their normal life and then integrate with their people, not only socially but economically, like skills development programs that makes them get employment jobs, or entrepreneurship trainings with a business startup support that gives them the chance to start new life after what they have gone through. The other question was from the lady in back. I think it was how to sustain or make sure that youth and women are included in the political and decision-making process, if I'm correct, in peace building. Yes. You know, my job is to advocate for the youth, whether it's in the local administration or district administration, regional administration, or the state. So we go to the leadership, we ask them, the right of the youth and women to take part in the peace building initiatives and to the politics. So if the administration has a policy in place, but that policy without implementation cannot bring change to the status quo of the youth. So there are some few examples I'm going to share with you. Very recently, there was district councils elections in one of the districts in the other state. So to make sure that youth and women are included or they are given, a share, there was, a decision that 20% of the seats should be allocated to women. But in that particular example, but that particular district I'm referring, we only had the total number of the seats were 27. We only had one woman who was ready, to contest for a seat, and there was a 20% allocation for women. Then when she came and she felt like she's the only woman that's running for the council, then she decided, to withdraw from the contest. So, like that example, if you try, to advocate for the inclusion of the youth, whether they are the boys, the girls, in the decision-making and political processes, and there is this challenge, then I think we have a lot of work to do. In 2016, we had the parliamentary elections. So to make sure that youth and women are given their, their share in the process, there were certain guidelines that we developed, like 15% of the electoral colleges should be youth, and 20% of the electoral colleges should be women. So those are very few examples that I can share with the audience, and we still have a lot, to tackle in Somalia. I don't know if the DG wants to add that or more on that. I don't know. It's okay.
Thank you so much. Lane, you have anything to comment on?
Yes, thank you. Just to respond to the question to international organizations about how we could help to build these platforms. I think these platforms are built on national structure. Before you get to the international level, they are built on your national representative structures for youth. So for example, in most countries, or we advocate that countries should have national youth councils in place as a representative body, elected by, supported by their peers. In the Commonwealth, we then build on that national structure to create regional and international structures and support them. So you have in this region the Pan-African Youth Movement, Union, you have the Caribbean Youth Council, and at the international level you have structures like the Commonwealth Youth Council. We create those platforms, but they are ultimately built on the national structures. The challenge we have now is that the national structures do need support and strengthening at that level. The national youth councils are not recognized, some of them are marginalized, and so that presents a challenge when you come to this level. How do you determine who should come to an international platform meeting? That must be based on the young people's selection. From those marginalized groups, persons with disabilities, how do you decide? So the international community has a role to play, but it is not without the support at the national level. It builds from the grassroots all the way up. It is not that the international community comes in and then selects who should come to these kinds of meetings. It must be built from the grassroots up. Therefore, you have this representation coming through. Then you can hear clearly the voice of youth at that level. So our job is to continue to support the work of these at this platform level. I want to also reflect on the question on the employment from South Africa, because I think it presents a real challenge, and in it there are some nuggets for us to consider going forward. So he said that when he came from the school, the government had no work for him, no work program for him. I think it says a lot that our young people are getting to that stage now where they have to be thinking in this way. I think he was right to use himself as an example to see how he's thinking outside of the box. But I think as young people meeting here, we must begin to go even further. Why is it that there was no job for him when he came out? It's not to just fix it for himself. There are millions of other young people who this has not been fixed for. So why is it that that has not happened? You see, in the youth work sector, our job is to work with young people to change or to make the consciousness come alive in your mind. For me, one of the challenges is that the very fabric of our society needs to be restructured. It needs to be re-engineered. There's an intergenerational injustice built into the employment system as it is now. You're going to have millions more young people coming out and they will not find any jobs. It is an injustice. And that injustice needs to be righted. It's the same thing happening with climate change. There's an intergenerational injustice where the people who have lived before are making it bad for those who are coming. And young people must wake up to this reality. And so structures and policy measures like mainstreaming are ways to begin to correct those intergenerational injustices like unemployment that need to be fixed. But I'm thinking that the challenge we're having now, the consciousness is still not there. I am not seeing people protesting or calling on or really standing up for what you are saying there. You're solving the problem, excellent. But the vast majority of people are saying, I have no job. And they just agree to themselves to suffer. Never own a house, never own this, and just go through life just hand to mouth. It cannot work. So I think part of the issue we're going to have to deal with in these meetings is how do we fix this intergenerational injustice as it's affecting young people today, and begin to see young people wake up and take charge. I think the theme says, take the lead. That is the challenge we have. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Let's clap for them. Eh? But there's one panelist who wanted to add something. Yes.
Yeah, briefly. There is someone asked about the practical skills, how we can create a possible practical skills. I can share just an example of what we're doing in Guinea-Bissau because we have a very low level of education, and we try to readapt some tools in our local languages. I think trying to use local languages can help build practical skills locally. For example, we have a program, a boot camp that we organize in 3 days in our local languages, but also giving them tools, and we go through a process from design thinking to project concept note. so that after the boot camp they have an idea of revenue generating activities that they can implement, and then we create kind of a team that can support them as a mentors, but locally the people that understand their issues and their problems. And now that works because we working with OEM. It's an international organization for migration. They have a lot of people coming back from Libya and from different countries. They don't have a good education. They need to do something to be able to, to survive, so that we give in those skills to them. I think trying to readapt some concept, like Design Man was saying. I'm also an entrepreneur, running a company called Big Technology. So we are in ICT. But the problem is the same thing. When they have a tender about like 2 million CFA, less than that, no problem. Big Technology can do it. But when it gets to 30 millions, 100 millions, no. We are young and then we don't have enough experience. And we are in the market like 5 years now. But the solution for me is to advocate. You need to organize yourself. It's what we're doing right now in the Chamber of Commerce and some association of entrepreneurs to talk to the government, because it depends on the policy. The government need to encourage the local entrepreneur, because they are not taking the money outside of the country. When they won the tenders, they will implement the project locally, they will employ local people, and they will contribute to develop our economy. So it's a mindset, but also a policy issues.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll take, oh my goodness, there are more. Not now. Let's have Tina there.
Yeah.
Let's take 5 more and then, yeah.
So we'll have one here and one at the back, please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel. I work with Restless Development. I coordinate a youth think tank that's generating evidence to inform policy and practice. I want to interest myself in a colleague from the Commonwealth Secretariat and to answer the issue of data. Some of my colleagues here are part of that network. We are in 7 countries, and we're actually generating a lot of data. So we are really keen on sharing our youth-led research methodology with colleagues here, and how you can go about engaging young people in leading this data generation that actually informs and is from their own experience. Secondly, this experience and training that we go along with the young people also gives them the expertise to help you fix problems. And talking about, again, my colleague from the Commonwealth Secretariat, there is no school teaching youth engagement, but we have a solution. We've designed a technical assistance offer. We support agencies and organizations figure out how to find out problems with leveraging the expertise of young people. And so we're quite open to sharing with you, and we'll be engaging on later.
Thank you so much. That was a good comment. Where's the mic? Oh, okay.
Thank
Here.
you. I wanted to piggyback on your answer and the experience you shared with the lady, the politician who had to withdraw her.
Mic, some volume for this mic.
Oh, thank you. So I wanted to piggyback on your answer and the experience you shared with the lady politician who had to withdraw. I think we need to go further and ask ourselves, why did she have to withdraw? Did she feel unsafe? Is the government providing, something for her, the conditions for them, for women politicians to be comfortable enough to, stay in the course? And then also, the 20% quota is good, right? So, but you need to foster an environment for them, for women to be politicians, to want to engage in their country's politics and stuff. So you have to go back to the parties. It was the same in Côte d'Ivoire. We recently voted a parity law. But when it went to the National Assembly for voting, we saw that the ones who were combating the law were actually the political parties. So you have to go deeper and deeper into the culture, the people, and transform minds, not just say that women are not engaging. Maybe they're not engaging because they don't feel safe, to engage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I like that part of the audience has now become panelists. Now they're contributing as panelists.
So we have a question at the back.
At the back, okay.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Je suis Nathan Thibou. Je vais partager de l'expérience. J'ai beaucoup écouté ce que les membres du panel ont dit, mais je voudrais savoir, nous sommes, comme des jeunes, nous sommes en train de pleurnicher à cause du chômage. Mais il se fait généralement dans nos pays africains. Nos gouvernements n'assainissent pas, ne donnent pas un climat favorable économique de manière à attirer des investisseurs à venir investir chez nous et qui peuvent engager.
So he's saying that we've been talking about unemployment and complaining about the impact it has on young people. But unfortunately, he doesn't think that the governments are doing good enough in creating and making it easy for investors to come in our countries, hence solving the problem of unemployment.
Ok, ça c'est le premier élément. Et le deuxième élément, c'est que comment réussir dans l'entrepreneuriat? Alors que lorsqu'on commence, on vous envahit avec les taxes. Et surtout quand on commence une activité, on n'a pas totalement la connaissance de la fiscalité. De manière à savoir, à éviter, est-ce qu'on peut payer ça? Est-ce qu'on ne peut pas payer ça? Et si on n'a pas les moyens de se faire assister par un avocat ou un fiscaliste, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire? Mais aussi.
Laisse-moi traduire cette partie.
D'accord.
So he was saying that yes, how can we become good entrepreneurs? Yet our government, as soon as the business starts, they're after taxes. So he basically just wanted to mean that taxes could be a burden for new entrepreneurs. And they don't have really a good knowledge on what the laws say in the country. And you can actually afford having a lawyer that is going to be guiding you through the process. So those are the two challenges he had mentioned so far.
Thank you so much.
The question is not yet over.
Okay.
So basically, he just wanted to know what could be done by young people to be successful in whatever they do in countries that have no peace, that are all about taxes, yet they don't really have experience.
Okay. Can we... Okay. At the back? Yes.
Boa tarde. Adulay, não sei se vai poder fazer a tradução ali. Só uma coisa. Eu chamo-me Binta Jafuno, venho da Guiné-Bissau.
Ela se chama Binta Dafuno.
You're supposed to be translating for
Sorry.
us.
I'm repeating the same thing. Okay, she said that she is from Guinea-Bissau and she wanted to, she is Binta Jafuno, and then she wanted to say something.
Quero agradecer ao presidente da República da Ruanda pelo este magnífico encontro que é para conectar a África. Isso é grande coisa.
This event is important because it's a way that we can connect Africa.
Bem, se estamos a falar do comércio, primeiramente eu quero que vejamos bem no que se trata da entrada de produtos entre a África mesmo, porque está muito complicado.
When we talk about commerce and trading, it's important to talk about borders because it's not easy to do trading between our countries. So it's important to connect, but also to open the borders for the commercial activities.
Porque para mim acho que África toda é o mesmo. África é só África. Então devemos pôr sentido desta coisa, a iniciativa do presidente da República de Ruanda, que é Conecta África, YouthConnekt África. É para conectar a África. Devemos conectar mesmo, sermos uma. Não dividir.
For her,
Isso não dá.
Africa is only one, and if we want really leverage from this event to connect Africa, we need to really connect and make Africa only one.
Como a juventude que somos, não vou alongar muito. A juventude não é uma alternativa, mas sim uma voz ativa no processo de desenvolvimento e construção do país. Então, vamos levar isso para os nossos dirigentes ali. A África é só uma, não duas. Obrigada.
Yeah. For her, the young generation is not only the future, but we are the present, and we need to work together to let our governments and our leaders know that Africa is only one, and to push them on that. Let's go back home and with this message.
Thank you so much. There's the last part that you didn't translate. At least I got that. Obrigado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, yes. Let's have, one more here, and then here, and then we get. Oh, you have. Okay, we are coming there. We are having here. Then you guys are protesting, or you're just. Okay. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Maxim. I'm here from Rwanda, and my question goes to Tony. As an entrepreneur, you say that youth has to make the initiative. They have to do something before they seek for funds. And at your opinion, what level do you think an entrepreneur should be looking for funds and all that things that can help him to or her to do business?
Thank you so much. Here. It's working, just...
Are you sure? Thank you so much. My name is Shuaib, Dr. Shuaib from Somalia. To add on what the DJ and his friend contributed, there is a question from a friend here, what is going on in Somalia? Of course, Somalia has got all the bad things to hear from, everything, the first bomb, the first whatever. But also, Somalia is developing, and electronically, everything is going via EVC, electronic vouchers. We don't have notes there. Telecommunications is doing well. Now we are talking about Buntula Investment Forum. More foreigners are coming and looking opportunities. So there are some parties which have been 30 years for peace, and the other parties which have been in problem. So you can come to the peaceful area and do business and get connected. On the same note, if you allow me, on 30 seconds, there is a make-up fictitious story I always make with my friends because I have to motivate them. Then I say, like, this world, after God created it, it was like a room with two doors. One enter, the other one you go out. Then there was someone inside directing whoever comes to the room. So I said, like, when the continents were created, each continent were given a chance to go into the room, collect what is good for them, then go to the next door. So I said, like, the Asian continent, they come in, they took technology, whatever, then went. Then the Australia took the land and whatever, then the Arabs. So it continues until it reaches Africa. Then I say the Africans, when they came there, they never asked, they never took something. So they just asked the guy where the people went. He said this door. Then they ran after him. Thus we are all heading to Europe, whatever country. But there was some lucky Africans who looked after around what is being left over. So they collected some small things. So my point is, the African youth, should not only look into the government, what it has, what it's taking, what it's looking for. They also have to look what is being left for them, which means to play their role. So tomorrow when they become ministers or whatever, they don't complain over. So I also wanted to thank William, Cynthia, Tony, Lemon, Adan, Ismail, Adan, Said, and Lynn, and the friend from Guinea-Bissau, and of course Raviel, for this opportunity. So let's do our part. That's what I will
Thank
conclude.
you so Thank you so much. Yes.
All right, so finally I have the mic. All right, my name is Bernard and I'm from Ghana, the gateway to Africa. All right, so what I want to say here is that African youth doesn't need employment. We need the environment, an enabling environment to create this employment. It's been, thank you. It's
Let's
been a
clap
while
for him, really. He wanted to pause for that so that we can...
It's been quite some time that youth has become instruments for winning elections in Africa. And we have a continent where graduates are now forming association calling themselves unemployed graduates in Africa. No, this is not funny. It's serious. Like my boss was saying, what kind of a breed are we bringing out from the universities? Are we giving them the skills that is right to put them at a position to create the jobs instead of looking on the government to give them one? You know, because government will always push their agenda, and they will first of all put those that they thought are with them first in position before you come second. So it is our time Africa take over. In my country, there's a young lady who is just 23 years and she's in parliament. She's only a hairdresser. So what I'm trying to say, Africans are, like the youth of Africans are able. We have the skills, we have everything it takes to be there. So let us take over. Let's retire the old men and let's take over the continent. Now, last one to my gentleman here. Please, continue doing what you are doing. Don't expect politicians to walk into your office. They will infect you. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's have two more, Tina, and then we bring it back to
I would
the
love
panel.
to have a lady. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Olive Wimana. I'm also a youth think tank researcher. And my question goes to the panelists from Somalia. And I think that's, firstly, it's an impressive achievement that you have been able to, that you said 40% of the government is youth. But I also have a question on that, because one of the, as youth researchers, one of the problems that we discovered that the youth are facing is that even when they get to the table, when they get the chance to sit to the table, still they're not part of the decision making. Like in numbers and in data, they're there, but when actually in real sense, they're not making an impact or influencing change. So what are the strategies that the Ministry of Youth in Somalia is putting in place to make sure that the youth which are there are also making a change and part of the decision-making process?
Thank you so much.
We have one lady at the back, and then...
This mic, I don't know.
Gender balance is important. Thank you so much. My question goes to Cynthia. Today I learned about a new topic, South-South cooperation. I want to ask, how are you implementing this in different countries? Is it in our country as well, in Uganda? Do you have offices there? Have you incorporated in the youth to do that with you, or it's just training? And if you have trainings, if you're training youth, how have you trained them, especially in our countries? Because it is my first time hearing that, so I would want to know and be enlightened in that and see how we can move forward with that.
Thank you so much.
Do you allow one more question?
Just one more.
Okay.
Yeah. It has to be a really...
A lady?
No, gentleman.
Oh, okay,
now.
a gentleman now.
Yeah.
We have two standing, Raphael. Would you please?
Okay, let's give the two then.
Okay.
But the mics are very far from, there's a crowd here that really wants to.
Thank you. My name is Zodiac, I'm from Rwanda. I have an opinion as an encouragement to young people as I have a non-profit organization. But the problem is that those young people with non-profit organization, they don't get the right help from big organizations like UNDP or UNICEF or from the government. I would ask the organizations to help young people implement their dreams, because young people are really, really as helpful. They are really encouraged to help their society. And the government, or that point of ignorance, we always meet them as we are going for registration or doing other things. They are not interested of us. They are saying we are young. You can't handle like a village to help them to reading or help in ICT like that. So I would like to ask for help. They can help us to implement what we have in our heads or what we want to help the society. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oui, merci. Je vais parler en français. Merci beaucoup pour la parole. En fait, ma préoccupation se trouve au niveau de l'entrepreneuriat de la jeunesse. Je pense par rapport à ce que nous sommes en train de vivre et de voir dans ces pays, et dans ce continent plutôt. La plupart d'exemples que nous recevons, par exemple à la séance du matin, là où nous étions, on nous a donné quelques exemples. Il y a eu quatre intervenants qui ont intervenu. Et tous ces quatre intervenants-là, donc ce sont les gens qui ont donné leurs exemples par rapport à ce qu'ils avaient réussi dans l'entrepreneuriat hors du continent d'Afrique. Alors, moi, je voulais que nous puissions d'abord avoir des exemples concrets, des gens qui ont entrepris en Afrique et qui ont réussi. Parce que nous remarquons qu'en Afrique, nous sommes en train de voir une politique qui ne facilite pas favorablement l'entrepreneuriat de la jeunesse. Alors, tel que vous êtes là, vous pouvez nous donner la lumière et des orientations. Comment un jeune Africain peut entreprendre et peut réussir cette entreprise-là, ici même en Afrique au niveau local, sans toutefois commencer en Europe, en Amérique, en Asie et consorts. Moi, je pense que c'est ça ma préoccupation.
Thank you so much. I'll bring it to the panel, and please try to respond to any of the questions that you feel confident in, and then I think we should be able to wrap up. So,
thank you. Can I go first? Yeah. To respond to my question, can I come back to you? I want to add something from Brother Solomon. They've really given you brilliant ideas and answers. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not my fault. But how about, you were talking about lack of trust, they don't trust us. This is a problem that most of us are facing today, or have faced, or will face, I promise. You will face that problem. How about we look at it in this way? I mean, it's a two-sided thing. One side is, how about we look at, it's not you that they're not trusting, it's not me that they're not trusting, it's their systems. If my brother here sent me to get something from there, and I bring it and he doesn't trust it, it's not me he doesn't trust, it's the source. So it's not us they do not trust, it's their education system. So we should not tackle this problem from this kind of perspective, other than looking at the cause, right? How about we tackle the education system like the brother from Sudan had said? Then back to my question, very brief. I want to be very brief. You say to what level should we, yes? People are very sensitive when it comes to their money, right? They're very sensitive. If you are to come to me and you want funds, I do not want to put 10 million in your organization if I've not seen that you've actually tested it and I'm not sure it will come back. The level at which you have to apply for funds is when you are sure that you have tested it and it works and you're stuck. Then you come. Then you go to those people. I'm stuck, now I need your help. But it really works. But don't come with paper. People have seen a lot of papers and ideas, but they've failed, right? So that's when you apply. Thank you.
Je pense que je vais répondre aux deux questions des deux francophones et je vais parler en français. Tous les deux posaient la question de savoir comment entreprendre en Afrique avec les problèmes de taxes, les difficultés qu'on a et tout. Je pense que déjà, si quelqu'un entreprend, il commence son entreprise, il ne sait pas quelles sont les taxes qu'il doit payer, ça veut dire qu'il n'a pas répondu à la question de notre session de ce matin, qui demande aux gens de faire d'abord l'étude du marché avant de commencer son business. Donc, si tu ne sais pas déjà, dès au départ, qu'est-ce que je dois faire après avoir créé ma boîte, ça veut dire qu'il y a un problème. Ça, c'est très important. Maintenant, c'est vrai que c'est important. L'autre frère parlait de la création des champions entrepreneurs africains. Ça, c'est un aspect fondamental. Et je pense que cela permettra de, quand les gens vont vouloir entreprendre localement en Afrique, de pouvoir s'inspirer de ces gens-là. C'est vrai que c'est difficile des fois de voir un entrepreneur qui a réussi, mais quand même qui a eu la chance de lever des fonds en France ou de lever des fonds aux États-Unis. Comment un entrepreneur en local peut quand même évoluer et devenir un exemple. Moi, je pense que, je dirais pas que je suis un exemple, mais moi, j'ai pas eu la chance de lever des fonds aux États-Unis ou en France, ou même mieux étudier là-bas. J'ai fait mes études en Afrique. J'ai démarré mon business en 2014, mais il y a un secret important et je pense que mon frère du Rwanda l'a dit. Il faut valider ton concept. Les gens ne financent plus des idées. Il faut déjà que tu valides ton concept et que les gens croient en ton projet. Et pour valider ton concept, peut-être tu as besoin d'un financement de départ. Et donc, surtout, ce qu'il faut faire déjà, il faut penser à avoir un business qui règle un problème local, un problème de ton pays, de ta communauté. Ton projet devient plus sensible et tu vas aller chercher des compétences sans payer des salaires qui vont être tes associés. Donc, ça peut être un ami, ça peut être une maman, je veux dire une sœur, ça peut être quelqu'un qui a des compétences qui vont venir compléter ton équipe pour démarrer ton projet. Donc, au lieu de les payer des salaires, tu vas les dire, look, guys, ce qu'on va faire, on va travailler sur le projet, on va partager des dividendes. Donc, déjà, tu n'as pas besoin d'argent pour constituer ton équipe. Après, la deuxième étape, c'est de faire du love money. Les gens qui croient en toi, mais peut-être qu'ils vont pas croire en ton projet. C'est-à-dire des gens qui vont dire, OK, c'est ma fille, c'est mon cousin, c'est ma femme, etc. J'ai confiance en lui et je pense qu'il peut réussir. Donc, ils vont croire en toi et non à ton projet. Et ces gens-là peuvent mettre de l'argent dans un premier temps qui vont te permettre de démarrer ton projet. Donc, peut-être c'est un truc qu'il faut... Il y a un processus de financement d'une idée qui te permet de valider déjà ton concept et aller vers les angels, les fonds d'investissement, bien sûr, et des gens qui ont des années et des millions d'argent pour recruter des meilleurs employés, etc. Mais je pense que cela est important et ça permet déjà de commencer et de créer des champions et qui vont permettre de donner notre image à l'Afrique. Merci.
Thank you. Let's clap for him. Imagine he said all the good things. Cynthia, there was a specific question for you.
From the lady at the back. The UN Office for South-South Cooperation has its headquarters in New York and in the different regions in the Global South, including Africa. We only have the Africa office in Addis Ababa, but our implementation is in partnership with countries and regional bodies, and in some instances at civil society level. So on the question of whether it's happening in Uganda, there are some initiatives by civil society organizations that are partnering with, and the one that is coming to mind is a triangular cooperation involving Norway, Uganda, and I believe a Southern African country. I'll confirm for you. But as I've said, our intervention, our support is demand-driven. It has to come from the from the stakeholder who needs support in one or the other, or something related to South-South cooperation. So I think I shared my card with you. We can have more conversation on that. And as a parting shot, I think that's what we're giving. I remember, I think the discussion on entrepreneurship is going to go on for a long while. Solomon, I don't think we have a clear-cut answer. And definitely I'm not an entrepreneurship expert, and I cannot have the answer I think you're seeking for your question. It's a hard answer. Maybe my question would be why the government doesn't give. Is it just an age issue, or is there something else that informs their decision not to issue the tender to you? But I don't think at this point, or maybe if you have some discussions with more seasoned entrepreneurs, you might get your answer. But I remember having conversations with people on entrepreneurship, and especially the current trend on promoting entrepreneurship, which is a good thing. But I think there's an asterisk. And I think our governments, if we have government ministers here and government representatives, is entrepreneurship should not be an answer or should not be the medicine for insufficient or inefficient or a non-existent policy or supporting environment. It shouldn't. I think someone was asking, it was a good question. Why isn't the government ready for you after school? Not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur, and not everyone should be an entrepreneur. So if you want to go into employment, where is the gap? Where aren't we getting these jobs? The government, I know in most elections, are always promising 1 million jobs, will create 1 million jobs, will create. That means there is a role the government still has to play in job creation. And entrepreneurship, of course, has a huge place to play. But I think we should also just remember, not everyone was born to be an entrepreneur or should be an entrepreneur.
I will try to respond to the question of the sister. As the Ministry of Youth, what we are focusing is not just an increase in the number at the table, but we are focusing a meaningful engagement for the youth. So to do that happen, we have capacity development programs, trainings, youth forums where we bring youth from different aspects of youth life that they can discuss their issues and priorities within them and take their recommendations to the leadership. We also developed now a roadmap for youth engagement at the state, and that roadmap will serve as the purpose of all the development partners who are working for the youth programs now to go into the roadmap and pick an area that they think they can support the youth. So we are not just focusing the numbers, we are focusing the meaningful engagement of the youth. I think I responded to your question. Thank you.
Thank you. The unemployment question, the entrepreneurship question will continue unless we really ask the difficult questions. And the difficult question is really, well, why is the system the way it is? And that is this is where the youth work concept becomes relevant, because that is the consciousness. Why is the system the way it is? Because if the system keeps generating unemployed youth, then there's a problem with the system. It's not a problem of each government come in and out. They'll keep revolving around. They can't solve it because it's a systems problem. So you have to fix the system. You keep having graduates coming out. That education system needs to be fixed. It's not relevant for the day and age that you're working in today. So you have to ask the more difficult questions. So I think the concept of this conference is we're asking the questions that nobody else is asking. Ask those questions and then go on and make the noise that will change them, or take the leadership that will change them. I'll give you one of the questions here. Who says, I heard mentioned 70% of the population in one country is youth, but the cabinet is 30%. They said 30% of the cabinet will be youth. A difficult question would be, well, why if 70% of the population is youth, not 70% of the cabinet be youth? Who made the assumption that it should be 30? On what basis did it get to be 30? Why not 40? Why not 50? Why not 70? I'm saying we take the things that we are given as if it is come down and we must just accept. No. Young people must ask those questions that nobody else wants to ask and then take the leadership to change them. That is the power of youth. And unless we get to that place where you keep asking those questions, keep knocking that door, and then seize the opportunity, we will keep having these Connect meetings, and we'll come and we'll talk and we'll go back home, and we will go back into our unemployed situations. No change.
Thank you so much. Lamin?
Finally, I will also add that on education, you realize that in most of our African countries, the system had been inherited from, let me say, from the colonial time to date. And if you look at the system of education, I would say, is producing more diplomats and secretariat jobs, clerical jobs. And even our civil servant service, let me say public service in most countries, are designed in this manner. Everybody from permanent secretary to principal secretary to senior secretary to assistant secretary to the cadet secretary, they are all secretarial responsibilities. So there is no specific responsibilities or a specific trade that people are trained from school to carry out in those offices. So for us to fix that, the fixing is, like he said, in the education system. And when it goes to the education system, then it goes to our offices so that the public offices we create will solve our problems, not just to be there to sign papers, checks, and send them out. That's all they do. Review minutes, mail folders, and mail folders are assigning some response, and that's all. Meetings and so. So we need to check on that. I just have one or two things that could answer some of those challenges from the morning event, where young people were recommending for us to address the issue of this unemployment to further formalize the creative industry. There are a lot of young people interested in the urban setting, in the creative sector, be it art, music, and even other creative sector. But the sector has not been formalized in most African countries. We need to find a way to formalize it so that we can have more young people that earn from their passion, and they can do it with dignity. There was also another recommendation that talks about there is inadequate access to resources as young people are saying, funding, financing. So some young people were proposing, how can young people, young entrepreneurs, instead of, waiting for someone to provide resources, come develop or work on some collaborative platforms where they could generate resources to finance their present, medium-term, or even long-term business ideas, as another recommendation. And others are also talking about there is very unfriendly tax regime in most of our African countries. And this is killing young startups who just coming on board, and they could actually try to do something to address the unemployment, but it's difficult. And when you look at the interest rate in some of the countries, that is also another challenge that's been highlighted. So it's important that we are able to look at it fine. Governments and other duty bearers have a responsibility. But moving from here, if we are saying, I take the lead, what responsibility are we taking ourselves to change these narratives? Because or else we will also come and go into these governments and behave like they are behaving. Our children come and the same thing. And who is going to take the responsibility to change these issues? Thank you.
Taking responsibility to change the system. I think we should end at that point, and let's clap for them. Let's clap for this panel. And this is a special panel. This is not the ordinary panel. This is extraordinary panel. So I want us to clap for them in this way. When I say measure, I want you to measure. When I say measure, you keep adding. When I say measure, you keep adding. When I say drop, you drop. Right? So let's measure. 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 I didn't say drop. Okay, measure. 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 If you are quite excited with the panel, you can give them you can even measure, 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 measure. Not yet. Okay, again, let's measure. Measure, measure, measure. There are guys who are just waiting to drop, Okay, measure. And then drop. 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 Thank you so very much. I'm sure we would want to engage more. Thank you. I'm sure we would want to continue engaging, but we are even 1 hour, 30 minutes past the time we were supposed to be ending. That shows how exciting this discussion was, and I want to thank the panel. It's been amazing, and thanks for sharing your expertise. Thanks for sharing your experience, and thanks to all of you. I want to welcome Mutinta. Please don't leave. Mutinta has a special message for all of us, and I want to welcome her to give us closing remarks. Mutinta.
Thank you so much, Raphael. I take the lead. I don't know about you, because it's been so much impactful that I don't even know what to say. I think there's so much rich experience in this room. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we have to harvest all that experience that we've had. So I take the lead so that it contributes to boosting and industrious young Africa, the theme for YouthConnekt. And as a way forward for us, UN Habitat, and I take the lead, I had said that you can take it from me. Ask me next year in October what I've done. We are planning to sign an MOU with UNOSSC, South-South Cooperation, with the Stockholm Environmental Institute, to be able to move all this thing forward. Commonwealth, are we signing? UNFPA, are we signing? UNDP, are we signing? Côte d'Ivoire? Youth, are we signing? Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And like they say, behind every successful man, and every successful man, yes, I just want to, you've been seeing us going around, but there is a team behind all this, and they are all young people, volunteers. And I want them to stand up so that you can actually clap for them, because they are the ones who put this whole program. Me, I was just giving instructions. Do this, do this, do this. Please, please. Bobby, Hindu, Oresa, Irene, Kim. Thank you so much. This is the team that is based here in Rwanda, and then the team that is based in Nairobi. Judith, Raphael. I'll be in trouble if I leave somebody out. But Kaveke is gone. And Kaveke, he's done this, so I already thanked him. The last one, but not the least, our country program manager, Catherine Kalisa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. But most of all, thank you so much to the audience and the young people, because if you didn't come, we were not going to have this session. Thank you so much, and clap for yourselves. Thank you, thank you. Asanteni sana, mrakoze, merci beaucoup. In Portuguese, what do you say? Obrigado. With all those remarks, thank you so much, and thank you, panel.
Thank you, and there's nothing to add on top of that, and now we can leave at our own pleasure. Thank you so very much.